This is where Shunsuke is really turning it around.
Another Myrmidon is up next, and that's going to get his other trap hole from the deck, Trap Trick's Trap Hole Nightmare. And things have gone from bad to worse for Sahabi. Now, even if he could force through a Soul Charge play, Trap Trick's Trap Hole Nightmare could still stop an Archfiend or whatever other monster he summoned that activated.
Once again, we welcome you back to the coverage of YCS Madrid. Almost 500 players showed up for this event in the Spanish capital to make this one of the most exciting tournaments of the year, because we have a brand new format, as we indicated earlier. We have some new information for you. We got the deck breakdown of the entire event. So at first we were expecting to see a kind of triangle between Shaddoll, Satellarknight and Burning Abyss. And it turned out that Shaddoll was the by far most popular choice for most of the players here, with almost 1/4 of the field playing with that particular deck. We got Satellarknights right up, 13%, and then Burning Abyss. And we saw in the round before that Lightsworn seemed to be like an odd choice, but in fact it's the 4th most popular deck. So all of that and more is going to go up live in the written coverage that we linked to in both the Twitch chat as well as on the official website. In this round, for our feature match, we're going to have something completely new. You've never seen this before. It's going to be Burning Abyss versus Shaddolls. That doesn't sound quite right, but the thing is, they are in the same deck. They were fighting for spaces in their deck. Paolo Pacchiana, he just gave up. He just said, no, let's just play 54 cards and play both archetypes.
I'll just get 2 of these decks and put them together.
Yeah, and just like, all right, here we go. That is the story of the round. His opponent, on the other hand, is Frederic Lanoy from Belgium, who is running Satellarknights.
Yes, he's playing Satellarknights with 2 copies of Trap Chips Mumelo in his main deck. And the 2 trap holes of choice is Time Space Trap Hole, new from Duelist Alliance, and Trap Trick. Oh, he's playing Bottomless Trap Hole. Sorry, 3 trap holes.
Natural pick, basically.
Yeah, and Trap Trick Trap Hole of Nightmare.
Yes, and I asked you prior to the match, why would you play Time Space Trap Hole rather than a second copy of the Trap Tricks Trap Hole Nightmare that I just call TTHN most of the time? And well, your answer was it's really good against...
really good against Shaddoll. Being able to put the Windrower back into the extra deck so they get nothing off of their fusion is very, very important, because for things like Trap Trick Trap Hole Nightmare, you can't guarantee... Windrower doesn't have an effect that activates, so you can't use it. And Bottomless Trap Hole can't destroy it because it can't be destroyed by card effects. So Time Space, very good for just shoving those Windrowers back into the extra deck where you don't want them.
And in that particular scenario, you don't mind taking some damage. You're like, I'm better off with 1,000.
Yeah, I'll take 1,000 now rather than all my life points.
A little bit
like
more later
2
on.
turns.
Right.
I think we're getting ready for the round to start.
So with the introductions out of the way, we're once again heading over to the feature match table where both players are already sitting down. The judges have instructed them what's going on. Once again, the volunteers will help us and put down all the contents of the players' hands and fields into the app that we can bring up live for you. So as you can see, the players are holding the cards in a not so natural position. That is so it's easier for the judge to write down the contents.
I imagine the judge is just as confused as
yeah.
we were when he's saying, "Oh, wait, is this
like, what happened here? There must be." Are you sure that these are all your cards, or did you accidentally like pack some cards from the guy you were playing
from the previous round?
He's like, no, that's fine. But so far it served him well. Both players are sitting on a 3-1 record.
So very impressive.
So it seems to work out. He was on a 3-0 record prior to the last round.
So yeah, his first loss came in the last round.
Yeah.
Well. Frederic Lanoy, sorry. 2 Stellar Alphas. Mystical Space Typhoon, Trap Trick Trap Hole Nightmare, and Satellarknight Altair. The Stellar Nova is very, very powerful in these unpredictable matches. However, he doesn't want to give up his Satellarknight Altair. So really, he's only got a Trap Trick Trap Hole Nightmare to defend himself with, depending on what his opponent plays. And here we have from the Shaddoll Malabranch.
Yeah, we have to come up with a name for that.
I'll work on it. It's going to be like a 20-letter acronym, which actually just
something
makes
like
sense.
that. Or we can just call it BAS for Burning Abyss Shaddoll.
Bass.
Yeah.
Okay. Bass it is. So 3 cards come again, be set down for...
That's like, when you see that as an opponent, your guys playing the Curry Bandit and he just like throws 5 cards to the graveyard and you're like, where are the synergies here? I just don't get it.
Well, he was hoping to perhaps hit some of those Burning Abyss monsters, or actually any of the Shaddoll monsters as well would have all triggered that.
So they do have something in common.
Yes, they have that, the way that they can interact with cards like Curry Bandit. Frederic, unwilling to wait another turn to see a monster that's not Satellarknight Altair, drops it onto the field behind, in front of 2 Satellarknight Nova Alphas. A compulsory evacuation. He's pretty rooted in there. And we're going to see lots of
Face-down cards.
Lots of face-down cards here. And there's the Satellarknight Denub for Frederic.
The engine that gets this deck going, basically. And it's good to go. And suddenly, Lanoy is sitting in a pretty good position because he can just repeatedly cast Deneb, basically, and keep on searching for cards in his deck.
Yeah, he keeps just bringing it back from the graveyard with Altair. And I'll pull up Denub for you guys. Many of you are very familiar with this card, but it looks nice, so you're getting it on the screen big.
Right. We have seen players with gigantic decks do well at the highest level of competition before, especially with the Mermaid deck.
Yeah,
where
we've seen it.
Players actually went frequently for many more than 40 cards. And it worked well because there were so many search effects in the deck that allowed you to just like get your hands on the cards you needed the most for the particular scenario. And basically, you're playing your side deck in your main deck, which is
basically, and in a predictable field of decks. Makes sense. We're going to see Karma Cut coming out, discarding the Scram, which will enable... Paolo? I missed it when you announced it earlier. Well, he'll get a search in his end phase.
Yes. Also, one interesting thing is he's running 3 copies of, like Paolo, of course, he's running 3 copies of Super Polymerization in his main deck. We discussed this earlier. If you want to run more than 1 copy in the main deck, he runs 3. So...
We saw Satellarknight Satellarknight Nova Alpha stopping the Karma Cut. And we're seeing, I believe that's Sinister Shadow Games that's been flipped up.
Suddenly the field is not so full of face-down cards anymore.
Yep, and we're going to see a second Satellarknight Nova Alpha.
Right.
Is that really what he just drew? It's the third Satellarknight Nova Alpha. It's just stopping his opponent from getting started from, again, another possible slow start.
You can play all the crazy cards you want, but I got all the answers. Sitting right here in my back row.
Wow. And he's still holding that Compulsory Evacuation Device and Trap Hole Nightmare, which is a card that's potentially going to catch Paolo out of... just catch him out, because the Trap Trick deck seems to have faded away into obscurity. Since WCQ, where Hat was considered the biggest deck.
Yes, and failed to put up a dominant performance in the top cut, basically.
Yeah, but when you look at the North American WCQ, it's a deck that 4 of 4 slots in the top 4 were Hat, and it just seems to have faded out in Europe, I guess.
Well, it is a different... it's totally different, the way that players are playing over here.
Yeah.
We've had the discussion quite a few times if it's not just easier to win on one side of the pond or the other, but it's also like, as a European, will you do better in America, or as an American, will you do better in Europe? Which is quite interesting because we saw Sam take down YCS Milan last year, and he played in a very aggressive manner that you typically don't see in Europe.
Oh, the 125th, yeah.
Yes.
The Geargo deck he was playing,
Yes,
right.
exactly. Sam Pedigo, I think.
That's right.
And you don't see that too often in Europe, usually. You see players, it seems like they're going more for controlish approaches. So it can really work in your favor when you're like the one guy in the whole field who goes for a totally different approach.
Especially when you've got that much jet lag flying over from the States.
Yes.
It's like, I want a deck that wins fast so I can sleep in between rounds.
So Dante has hit play.
I'll just pull this one up for you guys. You've seen him before, but quick check of the card text.
Yeah. And Frederic is making sure that, I mean, he's probably familiar with Dante. So
Well, considering what he's asking, yeah, there's none of the cards face down that would cause me the question, unless he's.
yeah, but you don't want to give that away. That you don't really can't respond to that at all.
Well, he's got plenty of responses. It's just I'm interested to see what kind of question he's asking about the card.
So it seems like there was a judge call, and the judge needs to check something. Otherwise, I couldn't really explain why suddenly the game was put to a halt. So it's really hard to make out like what Paolo is aiming for. I think he just takes the cards as they come, and then either go for the Shaddoll game plan, or alternatively go for the Burning Abyss.
Yeah, since the Burning Abyss engine gets going, you're searching out for the cards that keep making it run. So even if he only just draws one tour guide, he can just loop through all of his Burning Abyss monsters. All whilst going on, he has the ever-powerful fusion, Shaddoll Fusion. Trap Hole, Trap Tricks Nightmare will take out Dante.
So now they're asking if the effect of Dante triggers when it gets destroyed this way.
Yeah, because it says negate the effects and destroy that card, so I can see where the question could possibly come from.
Paolo would like to return something, obviously, whereas Frederic is like more than happy that he doesn't get the search.
Yeah.
So we got a search for a Burning Abyss.
Yes, sir. And he's also got Rogeki Break face down, so if you look at his hand, he's got Scram in his hand, and a Shaddoll Hedgehog, and Squamato's flip face up.
So by now, Frederic should know what he's up against. I guess he was knowing that from turn 1 on when the Curry Bandit flipped 5 cards. Is there something where he's like, okay, now I know, I have figured my opponent out, how do I approach this match?
Really difficult, especially since he's used 2 of those counter traps so early to slow his opponent down. Because you don't know which combination of cards Paolo is actually drawn, you don't know which way his game plan is going to go, so it makes it very hard to respond, because you might see Shaddoll Fusion and go, okay, he's going into the Shaddoll route, counter that and then find out the rest of his hand's all Burning Abyss and you've set the cards in the wrong order.
Right.
There is overlapping though for those possible side deck choices like Shaddoll, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, since the Burning Abyss and Shaddolls are all darks. So we're seeing reinforcements of the army coming down for Frederic. For Vega, yes.
Yes.
Satellarknight Vega is a card that you generally search for when you have multiple copies of Altar in your hand, or if you can push forward a large number of summons in a single turn.
Right. So we are going to see a couple of summons in this turn. And Paolo just indicates, yep, that's fine. Keep them coming.
He's got responses. He's waiting for the best moment to make the use of his Rogeki Break or Compulsory.
And we can definitely expect him to know exactly when the right moment approaches.
Yeah, it'll be as he's allowing Frederic to search his deck, he's looking for the XC summon. He wants to take that down. Because based on the cards in his hand, he doesn't have the Shaddoll Fusion to let his opponent keep the XC monster. That is a Deltros, I believe. It's a ghost rare.
Yes. And Compulsory is supposed to deal with it, and that's one of the best answers, I take it. So Frederic is checking that real quick.
Yeah, when Deltros is summoned, he has an effect that prevents your opponent activating cards. So the question I imagine he's asking is, do I get an opportunity to use
the effect
my effect before my opponent can use Compulsory?
Right. And it seemed like Pacchiana was a little bit too fast right there, like flipping it right away after it hit play. And I cannot imagine that Lanoy said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna do anything."
Yeah, he wouldn't have made the game state
Yeah.
not open. So he summons, his opponent can't respond.
So the game is gonna get rewinded.
Well, I'll see which way the judge is going.
Oh, that is.
Oh.
That's interesting.
Okay, so no, the play's going to continue. And I guess right now, Frederic is considering how he responds to this. Probably Stellar Nova.
Right.
Okay, no, okay, they did go the way that we thought it would.
Yes. So they they were rewinding the game, it seems. So to the last legal state where Frederic was allowed to activate the effect of his Delteros. So he did just that, and then as before, Paolo was indicating that he wants to respond and chain to the effect with compulsory evacuation device. That is what I make out of it. It also seems to be the only logical.
Yeah, this would be how looking at the screen, what I'm considering. We don't know the
Yes,
exact
what's being said on the table. So yes, still there might be an appeal here, because they once again returned the cards back to the field rather than just like leaving them in the graveyard. So Paolo wants to check with the head judge, use his right to appeal. Something I want to encourage you: if you are playing at a tournament and you feel like you've been wronged, or you're not 100% sure that the judge is making the right call, because we're all humans, we all make mistakes, you can use your right to appeal. The judge will not hold it against you, and then the head judge will make a final decision. So this is basically what we're waiting for the head judge to come over. The players will also get extra time at the end of the round, so it's not like you're losing anything, you're only gaining something.
Yeah, especially if you believe that the right to appeals should be used when you disagree with the rule and you believe it's incorrect. And we
So
have
this is
our head judges actually coming over.
Yes, so Patrice is once again reading the cards. Despite its shininess, that should not be too much of an issue for him. And Paolo, as we can see, points frantically at his compulsory evacuation device, indicating that he wants to activate it as soon as possible.
Yeah, Paolo doesn't want the Deltros to get an opportunity to take out another one of his cards. And
so
we'll see which way this goes.
yeah, well, fortunately we got translators at the table.
Yeah, that's
so even if one player doesn't have a strong command of the English language like you do, I don't.
I think your English is better than mine. Serious.
So we got people there who can figure it out for them and translate it into their local language. So I think the decision has been made, and Patrice is indicating with his hand gesture that he's not going to change his mind, which is something that judges don't tend to do. So yes, it is legal for Frederic to activate the effect of his Exceed monster.
Of course, this causes a problem because of how fast Paolo did this.
Response
He's
game, yes.
revealed the compulsory evacuation device. So
this is why clear communication at the table is so important. I mean, now he says, okay, I'm just going to keep the compulsory because he's not forced to activate it. And instead chain the Book of Moon, I guess.
The unfortunate thing that we can't rewind is that Frederic actually has seen that now.
This
and
extra
has
information, yes. But it's obviously not Frederic's fault that this has happened.
Yeah, you know, he was playing the card as he believed it worked, and his opponent was responding as he believed the card worked, and it just happens. Sometimes there's a disagreement on...
Right, so another Stellar Alpha chained to the Book of Moon, if I see this correctly.
Yeah.
And now Paolo is checking his opponent's graveyard just to make sure that the chain is right, and also counting the cards, something you see a lot from the veterans. They want to be 100% aware that there's no new cards getting introduced into the match somehow.
Yep.
Sometimes you slip while you're drawing, and then you end up with 2 cards in your hand rather than 1, which is obviously not what you're supposed to do. And
Very much not. So.
by always counting, you can make sure that this doesn't happen. The MST hits a Raigeki break.
Which is chained.
Yes. it seems like a streak of bad luck for Frederic. I mean, at first we think he's in a good position because he saw the compulsory that gets flipped face down again. So he has more information about his opponent's back row. Then uses his cards to take them down, and Paolo simply is able to chain everything he's got there to generate an advantage.
That's part of the strength of the Burning Abyss, and he gets a Dante back out of the exchange. Not only is Mystical Space Typhoon taken out, the Regeki Break takes out the face down card, and also gets Dante back. So that's a big swing in momentum in this match.
Yes, and it must be frustrating for Frederic, who thought that he was in such a good spot, and suddenly he's like, no, I'm really not. Right. So a tour guide that Paolo drew into, that is definitely strong, but a Vanity's Emptiness deals with it. Good answer from Frederic to make sure he doesn't fall behind anymore.
Yep, there's going to be 2,000 life points taken away from Frederic in these two direct attacks. And then Dante will switch to defense position.
So that's 3,200 life points remaining for Frederic. Still enough to sport a comeback, but he has to come up with something and fast.
We also have this issue where the Vanity's Emptiness is again locking him out of his own XC summon to respond to these. However, he's now put a monster in play that neither Dante nor Tour Guide can actually defeat in a head-on battle. But the Satellarknight Denub cannot defeat the Dante.
Right. So we know that Paolo still has one face-down card, which is
it's
compulsory, of course, that we saw earlier. He's not likely to activate that in this situation.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for him to return.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Grand Mole against the tour guide that we saw earlier, or would have seen.
Interesting information. Paolo has Effect Veiler in his hand for when that Vanity's Emptiness does inevitably get switched off. But it's all fun because there's a second Vanity's Emptiness face down.
Yeah, so lots of
all that planning,
disruptive effects.
Yeah, we're seeing like
going on here.
3 Stellar Nova alphas and 2 Vanity's Emptiness.
But the big question for me is time working in Paolo's or in Frederic's favor in this match?
It's difficult to say because of this hybrid. The Burning Abyss deck generally runs out of options in its main deck pretty fast.
Yes.
But we're yet to see
any of the Shaddolls, really.
Any of the Shaddoll stuff, and we're seeing a 54-card deck, so it's naturally much bigger. It has, while it seems to be maintaining the consistency, it's still going to have a lot of stuff in there.
Here we can telegraph that we're going to see some Shaddolls very, very soon.
Yeah, Shaddoll Fusion.
Yes. Getting added to Paolo's hand, and now Frederic must feel like, oh, this is not the spot I want to be in. I mean, he's got the Vanity's Emptiness, so for the time being he's safe. But that could switch in just a heartbeat.
Absolutely. That second Vanity's Emptiness ever so important to stopping the Shaddoll Fusion.
Yes.
Face down Karma Cut has been placed by Paolo.
He still doesn't have a way to attack over Dante.
Okay, so we're going to see a Traptrix Murmello, and he's going to... and Frederic is going to search his deck for a Trap Hole card.
It's probably not going to be the time-space Trap Hole, I think.
Difficult to say. He's going for the Bombless.
Yeah, it seems like the safe choice here.
Yeah, giving up more life points at this stage is always pretty difficult. Is he playing any Soul Charges? Frederic, yeah, he's playing 2 Soul Charges as well, so any life points he gives up at this point is taking away from the quality of draws that he has available to him.
Right. So you have to play in an economic way, basically, at this point. So does Paolo actually want the Vanity's Emptiness to go away at this point?
Not during his opponent's turn. He's looking for... He wants to switch it off during his turn, so his opponent's locked out special summoning for an entire turn. Take it off, then do all of his Hexy summons and stuff like that. If it goes down before his opponent's had an opportunity... If it goes down and his opponent has the opportunity to do all of his special summons, it's...
Yeah. So he uses a Foolish, and he's got a Felice Lights 1 Archer in his deck, but no, he doesn't go for it. He...
Felice, I believe, only gets summoned if it's sent by a monster effect.
Oh.
So a Foolish Burial wouldn't trigger that.
That wouldn't really
card.
work right there, yes. So, but he does get rid of both the Bottomless and, as a result, the Vanity's Emptiness. That seems pretty strong for him.
Foolish, sending Shaddoll Dragon away, allowing him to pick up a 2-for-1. And Shaddoll Fusion, I expect we're going to see
The second Vanity's Emptiness.
Emptiness chained. Yes.
There we go. Frustrating for Paolo.
Yeah, especially when you consider there's still a dimensional prison and a bunch of monsters on Frederic's side.
He's not out of options just yet, but well, I mean, we're basically back to square one for him with another Vanity's Emptiness, shutting down both players in this stage of the game.
Yep, and the Dante defense pulling its weight. 2500 is extraordinarily high. It will even keep a number 39 Utopia out of your life points.
Yes.
And we're seeing a reinforcement to the army, and this is the situation we were talking about earlier. He's looking for a way to switch off his own Vanity's Emptiness during his own turn.
Yep, that worked just fine. And now he can go crazy.
Let's see how he goes, because there is a Karma Cut face down for Paolo, which will be able to answer anything. And here we are, we're seeing the same play again with Satellarknight Deltros.
Well, this time we're not going to see an early compulsory evacuation device, I tell you that.
That is the compulsory that's being targeted.
Yes. I can't imagine he targets the compulsory, does he?
Yeah, he targeted the compulsory, and the compulsory is going to be used to send the Deltros back to the deck.
But why wouldn't he target the other face-down card that he doesn't know? Because compulsory is going to get activated anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be chained. It's a very interesting question there, because he could have put himself in a position to take out two of his opponent's cards for one. I don't want to believe he'd forgotten that the compulsory evacuation was device there. Perhaps he was just trying to get it off the field so his follow-up play would go through. And Effect Veiler are going to be stopping the Satellarknight Altair.
Right, so that was a very timely Effect Veiler for Paolo, who was holding on to that card for a little longer. This seemed definitely like the right moment, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're in the very tense stages of the duel, where each player is starting to run low on resources, and it's just a case of who breaks first.
I mean, as long as we're talking about resources in terms of cards in your deck, Paolo is far, far ahead, Emma.
Yes, he has a very large number of cards left in his deck. Many, many options that he can turn to. A Downward Magician being actually summoned over the top of Dante.
Well, he doesn't expect to see yet another Vanity's Emptiness. I certainly don't expect that as an attack. And
was there an attack there?
I think there was. Both players are doing what you're doing when you're not 100% sure what to do. You just buy some time by checking your graveyard, your opponent's graveyard, and your extra deck. That works quite well. But you can only push it so far, so something is going to happen in just a second.
There's also refreshing your memory about what's going on.
Yes, that is true.
We've got a Pot of Duality for Frederic, but that again takes away his ability to
special summon. Yes.
And that Downward Magician is pretty big. Okay, so we're going to see another Xe summon.
So what is he going for here?
He seems to be hovering. Okay, so he's going Daigosta Emerald, which is going to be taken out by Karma Cut. Another very, very, very powerful discard trap.
And suddenly, Frederic is sitting in a pretty bad position with the big Downward Magician threatening him.
Ran out of cards. He's got a Pot of Duality and a Dimensional Prison against his opponents. The Karma Cut hasn't disappeared. Here we go. Downward Magician and Shaddoll Falco. I had it right the first time. And it flips face up, and Falco will find another card.
So this is looking really good.
I
suddenly.
keep getting confused because we had a guy who used to work for Konami called Falco.
Oh, okay.
And I keep thinking I'm
It
pulling the
it
card
can't
wrong.
be. Yeah, we can't have named a card after an employee. Should really do that.
Right, so we can see a Dino Magician direct attack into
The dimensional prison, yes. But this is all working in Paolo's favor. I mean, he loses a card, his opponent loses a card. That's a fine trade for him because he's ahead on cards.
Okay, so
Frederic finds no, he doesn't find the Pole of Duality, but he's going searching. There's definitely a card he doesn't want to have, which is the Solemn Warning. Another prison.
I guess that's all he can take.
Yes. And so that prison will not put in that much work for him.
Far less effective when
The
your
opponent knows
you have it.
100% that it's sitting down there. So his one defense is the set dimensional prison. And Paolo.
Sinister Shadow Games, I believe that's being activated.
Yes. So what's the question here? We once again got a situation where it seems like the communication between the players is the real issue. I'm not sure. So what is he doing?
He's played Shaddoll Hound, actually.
All right. Basically, he explains to his opponent,
Oh, how?
"I have just won the game."
Oh, right. And I had all
and
these
yeah.
options. Right. Okay. So
here's it real slow for you again. So
it's like watching a silent movie. but
yeah.
with no bits of
We were
text
just
coming
waiting for
up.
somebody to like put up the sign that says this is what's happening.
Yeah.
But that's actually our role. So let's fill you guys in. So he did flip, not the Sinister Shadow Games, of course. What's the Shaddoll trap again?
It's Sinister Shadow Games.
It is Sinister Shadow Games. So he brings back the monster, and that is giving him enough of a field.
Yeah, it lets him
to
flip
win the
up
game.
his Shaddoll Falco, which then sends a card from his deck to the graveyard,
Right.
which can be a dragon to answer any back row that Frederic has, which is a dimensional prison. And then he's only sitting on 3,200 life points.
And
from
then he's
there.
basically just saying like, look at this. This is the end of the game. And
Yeah.
it just looked really confusing when all of this happened at once, but
Well, he started taking cards out of his graveyard and putting them back on the field, and we're just there like, what?
yeah.
Does Hound have a hidden ability? I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that did happen before.
It's, you know, having cards that have text, well, have effects that's not written on the cards. It's not really fair, if I'm honest.
All right. So basically, we had a game where Vanity's Emptiness was shutting down both players for a very, very long time. Once Paolo broke through the first Vanity's Emptiness, Frederic had a second one to buy himself even more time, just wait for the right moment. He then uses a reinforcement of the army to like go off, but Paolo had all the answers in his back row. It seems like his trap lineup, which is also quite extensive with 14 cards. It's not just the monsters that are like clocking up this deck. It's also lots of trap cards that he has here. Were working in his favor and making sure that he could go on and win the game. So once again, the big question is what's going to get introduced from the side deck?
For Frederic, he's got no one to cross out 2 Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, Soul Drain, Pulling the Rug he's got a single copy of.
It's a very diverse side deck with so many one-offs.
Yeah, I wonder if the Maxis come in against the Burning Abyss. But again, the Burning Abyss deck, if you do Max C against a tour guide, can just say, okay, well, I'll have my Scram in defense mode and I'll end my turn.
Yeah.
As soon as the Scram goes, I'll get another tour guide and I'll try again. And you only get 1 card.
Yeah. So on the other hand, Paolo, he's got a few cards he might want to side out because he's playing a lot. He also's got Max C, DD Crows, which is
Very good is you respond to the Eltar
yeah,
with the
to make sure that Deneb only hits you once rather than over and over and over again. He's got something slightly tricky with the Malevolent Catastrophe, but I don't think that's going to see play here.
it's got a good chance. Can you consider there's 19 trap cards in his opponent's deck?
And he actually did see quite a lot of face downs on his opponent's side of the field.
I feel like you're never going to resolve that against the Stellar Nova Alphas.
Yeah.
Because if Malevolent Catastrophe actually resolves, it can outright just win the game
Yes.
for So maybe that's the reason to put it in.
Yeah, maybe it is. So yeah,
I
chain
don't think
disappearance doesn't. No.
No, all the
not
Satellarknights
against
are above
Satellarknights, yeah.
1,000 attack.
Right. So interesting options for both players, but they seem to be 100% sure what they needed.
Yeah.
Like no time, they took to side deck, and Frederic is starting the second game, but a timely effect Veiler once again negates the effect of Satellarknight Deneb.
Interesting, I missed from the beginning. There's a Satellarnova. Hold on. Hold on. Sorry, I think something's just been... There's a Satellarnova wave. I didn't realize he was playing one of those.
All right. So
I think the wrong card has actually been entered, but I think that is
okay.
Satellarnova Alpha.
So pulling the rack got introduced from the side deck, and it dealt with Tour Guide. So excellent side deck tech from Frederic, who is definitely sitting in the driver's seat here. He's got a reinforcement of the army to follow it up and go for a second attempt and try to get his engine going.
Yeah, he's also got Thunder King Ryo currently in his hand. Frederic has Thunder King Ryo in his hand, which can immediately stop these Scram and Tour Guide plays, because Tour Guide's the XE summon can be stopped by Thunder King, and he stops Scram from adding cards from the deck to hand. So, but we're seeing a huge bit of damage coming out. Satellarknights can actually just push so much damage at you without even XE summoning.
Yes.
It's just my level 4 guy, attack, attack.
So let's check the contents of Paolo's hand again. He's it's far from being a dead hand, but he doesn't really have any. Well, he's got a Raigeki break to defend himself, but that's pretty much it.
The Lila. Lila can create these really interesting game states where she's attacking over the Dinub,
Yes.
and now he can switch it to defense mode to take out a second
solid
card.
2-for-1.
Forces a Stellar
Nova
Alpha.
Yes.
Yes, I was right. It's not Stellar Nova Wave. Had me so confused. I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah, this can't be happening.
The remaining face down card is a Gnome across that, in case you wondered. The card drawn for the turn is Dimensional Prison. Here we see Satellarknights doing their thing.
Yes.
With Altar special summoning Dinub, and then Dinub allowing Frederic to search for his deck through his deck for another card, which is going to be another Altar, so he can actually show his opponent he's going to repeat this move next turn as well.
The thing is, like, this is one of the situations where Paolo must feel like I really would have liked to put in a Light Imprisoning Mirror in my side deck, but it seems like either there was no space or he wasn't like convinced of the card.
Interestingly, it also interacts with his own Dante, because it's a light monster.
It's a light monster, yes.
So maybe there's some of that was included, or he just felt like he didn't need it, maybe. Or
Yeah.
because he's playing so many cards, to depend on any individual side deck cards to actually show up.
Doesn't seem very likely, yeah.
It can happen, but at the same time, it's like...
You can never be like, I'm going to rely on drawing that card,
Yeah.
because that is not going to happen when you're going to play 54 cards. And
Yeah, there's 51 other cards that are going to get in the way of that game plan. So Graph is discarded for the effect of Raigeki Break to take out a card, and that then special summons Scram. And Scram, when it goes, will be able to find another Tour Guide.
so plays back to Frederic, who takes a slightly more defensive approach, only adding 2 back row cards. And Paolo seems confident that this is the moment to try and push a little bit through. He's got a Mathematician, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's Mathematician, Scram, and Mystical Space Typhoon on the field.
So this causes this other monster to be sent to the graveyard, because Mathematician obviously is not a Burning Abyss monster.
He looks too happy.
And now he's triggering the Shaddolls as well.
Yeah, with the Mathematician. Squirm, and that's is that Shaddoll Falco or Dragon?
I think the second one is a dragon.
We'll see. No, it's a Falco.
Oh, okay.
And this is the Mathematician
putting
versus
in some
D-Nub situation we're
serious
talking
work.
about.
Yeah. It seems a little bit like a fixer for this particular deck that makes sure that you're not gonna get locked out by your own cards.
I feel it's very good in this deck when you can trigger. You got two archetypes mashed together, and the mathematician effectively deals both of those very, very well. It also opens with the Shaddoll Falco, some level 5 synchro plays, and
so he once again has a tour guide in hand. So he does have something as a follow-up play for the coming turns, whereas Frederic, he doesn't really have to think about it. He's got the Satellarknights. Ooh, there's an
across
omen
out, catching
from
the
side deck.
Falco, and all copies of Falco going to be taken out.
That is gonna hurt. Like,
Nice.
where's the last one? And now Frederic, yeah, that
I'm
was
surprised he didn't take a longer look at his
longer look.
opponent's
Yeah,
deck.
I would have thought like, I mean, he cannot like read every card in detail or anything, but he can have a good look at the cards at least.
Especially considering his opponent's playing a hybrid. Like, you'd think
Yeah.
he'd go through and just sort of
like
take a
what else do we
mental
have?
note.
But maybe he was like, yeah, I got this anyway, and
There's a good.
which is basically just what happened here. Still interesting. I think I would have taken a closer look just to make sure what cards were sided in, or looked like sided cards.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it's like you're allowed to have a good look for your opponent's deck to make sure that they don't have any copies of the card. It's not like you have to flick through the deck within 5 seconds, and if you didn't see the card,
Yeah.
as long as you're going through with a reason, and you're not trying to run the clock out or something like this, or taking excessive amount of time, it's perfectly within the rules of the game to make the most of that information.
And that's the thing. Like, if something is allowed, you should make use of that rule to have it work in your favor, basically. Like, why would you give up that advantage?
It's just, that's just free information. What's my opponent's side and exactly what is going on here? But
Yeah, I mean, you need a good memory since you cannot take any notes, but this is like the best refresher for your mind that you can get, where you can just like take a quick look at every single card in your opponent's deck. But let's not obsess over that particular move. Once again, players are getting ready for the third and in this case final duel, of course.
for this round, yeah.
Yeah, and Frederic seems pretty confident. He doesn't want to waste any time. He's like, yeah, I'm getting down to this, and I'm gonna walk away victorious here. Whereas Paolo seems to be taking a little bit more time, and I don't think he shuffled that well.
His deck is so big.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just too lazy. I can't be bothered to shuffle 54 cards for 5 minutes.
And when he draws all of his tour guides and all of his Burning Abyss monsters in his open hand, be like, oh yeah, I forgot. They kind of all end up next to each other in the graveyard.
Right. But he does have to see him. He does have a diverse opening hand with both monsters, traps, and spell cards. And we will have them right up on the screen for you in just a second once again.
Yep, slowly loading in. We've got Frederic's cards. There's a Dimensional Prison, a Mystical Space Typhoon, Breakthrough Skill for Frederic. I don't know if that actually made it through to the stream, but we have a very large noise to say when the end of match procedure is.
Yeah.
I feel like they've maybe got that turned up a little bit too loud because that banged through my headphones right
No,
then.
well, these guys have at least 5 more minutes because it took them a while to get to the feature match area, get seated there, and then we also had the preparations for this very special kind of duel.
Sure. Frederic, I'm not feeling too comfortable with his hand. He's got no Satellarknights to go with the Nova or the Call of the Haunted. He has drawn Shadow Imprisoning Mirror as his 6th card to combat what's going on. I'll show you Paolo how he started. In his hand he has a Shaddoll Beast, and he has a Raikou on the field, Phoenix with Wind Blast, Regeki Break, and Sinister Shadow Games. So both players committing very heavily to the field in these early turns of the duel.
Yeah, so actually the Malevolent Catastrophe would be really, really good right here.
Well, he needs to get Frederic to attack him.
Yeah, that's true. But
Then he has the Nova for when that happens. But yeah, when you see it resolve and wipe your opponent's back row,
you're like, this would be really good.
I guess the question here is when he uses Mathematician, does his opponent respond with Breakthrough Skill, which is something he can do. I'm not sure if he wants to. He's probably going to save it back for the tour guide.
Yeah,
But then that creates an interesting situation where your opponent's got a free tour guide, essentially, even if its effect gets negated.
yes.
And Frederic needs to make sure he's maximizing all of these cards. He didn't flip up the Shadow Imprisoning Mirror yet. There it is. He's going to make sure that Scram doesn't get the
effect during
doesn't
the
get the search.
Yeah. Paolo is looking for a MST or any other card that can clear out the continuous trap card, but he doesn't have anything to.
He's got a Regeki break,
Oh,
so
he's got a
he
Regeki
can turn the Shadow Mirror off.
And I think with a Shaddoll Beast in hand, that seems like a fair move, actually.
Yeah, if he turns that off, he then gets to search for Tour Guide, which will eventually probably run into the breakthrough skill.
So yeah, he figures as much. Right, Kiki break.
Yeah,
that's a perfect opportunity to make use of that trap card. Very flexible trap card, comes with a cost. But in this particular deck, in both of these archetypes, the cost is just gonna work in your favor.
Yeah, well, the Regeki break on the Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. I believe time's been called for the feature match area as well.
So that is actually interesting information because it can mean that in some situations they're going to play in a different way, just to avoid taking damage, rather than pushing for a big attack. Well, you do want to push for a big attack, but not if it can backfire on you.
Yeah, there's always those situations where you overcommit to the field, then take even just the smallest amount of damage.
Yeah.
You either want to win the game or you want to not lose the game in that situation. It just depends on who's ahead on life points.
Right.
In this case, we have a tie, so we're probably going to see defensive play until somebody can make a safe, aggressive push.
Right. So currently we got both players on 8,000 life points, as you can see in the lower end of your screen. There is once again a little bit of a discussion going on. I'm not sure. Maybe it's because the Raigeki break was activated in the end phase.
Yeah, I imagine it's because the Shadow Imprisoning Mirror gets activated when he enters his end phase or something, and then he wants a Raigeki break, and he's saying, oh, but at this point, does the Scram still activate?
Yeah, I see.
I imagine that's what the question is. I can't be certain, so if you guys can understand the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sign language at home better than us, you can perhaps inform the rest of us.
Well, the problem for you is you're not seeing. We could translate it for you. So basically what's going on the table is like Paolo's doing this, and then we got a judge on the side who's doing this. And on the other side of the table, we got Frederic, who's working with his own cards a little bit and being somewhat relaxed. So you can make the most out of that. I hope this helps. It's just a rough translation from my end. And
we're doing our best, guys.
Yes.
We're doing our best.
So Paolo, once again, is kind of laid back. And this was the move that we saw earlier when he was appealing to the head judge. He just, like, didn't feel like, let's go over this again. Let's like, okay, I got my ruling from the judge, so I'm not happy with the ruling. I'm just going to appeal right here and hope for a different ruling from the head judge that's going to be in my favor. So we're not quite there yet. We're still, the table judge is still explaining his ruling, I think. With both players asking, like, are you sure about this? Are you sure about this? And, well,
yeah,
yes,
the judge
he
is
is
sure.
about
The judge doesn't want to get you the ruling, then be sure. If you're not sure about it, you can appeal to the head judge, and then he's or she is definitely sure when they make their final ruling.
Right. So, Raigeki break, as you cannot see, being activated to make sure that the effect resolves. That is the case. We have our ruling. So Paolo gets to search for another tour guide, like you indicated before, or not. He actually goes with another Burning Abyss
he goes
monster.
for Graph.
Yes.
His face down card, he has Phoenix Wind Blast, which he can use and trigger the effect of Graph, which will then get another Burning Abyss monster in the middle of his opponent's turn.
So he just keeps the engine going and not running out of steam anytime soon. And he's still got the face down Raikou, as far as I remember.
Yeah, and Sinister Shadow Game, so he can flip that Raikou whenever he needs to.
Yes, so unless there's a Light Imprisoning Mirror, but
that's just been taken care of.
Yes. And also, it's not very likely that a Satellarknight will play a Light Imprisoning Mirror.
Yeah, they're not going to...
yeah, they're not going to be like, I'm locking myself out of the game. So, let's just forget about that last comment.
I didn't actually click with me.
Yeah, I know.
I was just like,
like,
oh, there's a mirror on top. It's like, yeah, he wouldn't play that. And then it's just Oh, wait, hang on.
Right. So, yes, like we said, he's got the Phoenix Wind Blast. He's got the Raikou, so he's got 2 good cards to take out anything that his opponent can throw at him. Now, there is...
The really great thing about this is now we're entering end of match procedure. He's just forced his opponent to redraw a card that's not a monster.
That is very true, yes. In this particular scenario, since we are in the timeout, and like just dealing 100 damage to Raikou can be game deciding at this point, this is a big deal.
Yep, and Scram summoned, he controls a face-down monster. A face-down monster is not a Burning Abyss monster, so Scram will destroy itself. And he gets to search for a tour guide. So now he's put his opponent, who has no monsters at all, entering end of match procedure. We can see there's a Call of the Haunted, which is dead. Stellar Nova Alpha, which is dead. Bottomless Trap Hole, which can deal with an Exe summon, but not Dante, because Dante starts it if fires an attack.
What would you be doing? I mean, if Tour Guide resolves, you just attack with both monsters, right?
Well, yeah, you attack with both, make a Dante in defense mode, and wait the game out.
Yes. That sounds like a pretty good plan. There is the Tour Guide.
Because
now
Bottomless Trap Hole is dead, because this card has less than 1500 attack. He's going to have to use Breakthrough skill.
Frederic is going for Breakthrough skill, which is okay, but he's still going to take the damage from the attack, which can be crucial in this situation. Normally you're like, 1000 damage, Tour Guide, not a big deal. In this particular scenario, it's huge.
A single life point can decide who wins an end of match procedure, so the 1000 is definitely relevant, especially when we know it's going to be 2000 going into next turn.
Yes.
And potentially more.
Like you pointed out, he's going to draw for his turn, and it's not going to be a monster. And
it was another Bottomless Trap Hole, it says here.
Right. So just another 1000.
That can't be another Bottomless Trap Hole. Yeah, it's just being corrected. No, it's like, that's a limited card.
So once again, here are the 4 face-down cards for Frederic. It's a Call of the Haunted, Stellar Nova, Alpha, Bottomless Trap Hole, Mystical Space Typhoon. Not the cards you're looking for. And there was no Star Wars gesture involved right here.
Oh, no. And you got the
MST during the end phase to clear...
Super Polymerization?
Yes. So basically, Paolo is without defense. He's got the Sinister Shadow Games to flip Raikou when he has to, right?
Yeah, as soon as the opponent tries to commit to a play, he can flip his Raikou. And there we go. He's just
drew
shown
into a Breakthrough skill. Not the card he was looking for once again. And interesting, the 54 card deck is still
progressing in this
tournament. It's doing exceptionally well, and that's something that I obviously didn't expect. I mean,
we rarely see it.
I talked to the guy prior to the tournament. His friends pointed me there. They said, like, you have to look at this deck. And he starts and says something like, yeah, he's playing Shaddolls, and you're like, all right, Shaddolls, that's all fine, and that's all good, but like, okay. And then he's like, yeah, he's also playing Burning Abyss. And I'm like, what? And yeah, so he made it work. It seemed somewhat consistent in this match.
There was a lot of synergy there with the Mathematician putting in double duty across both archetypes.
And all the traps that discard cards are also very strong.
You get to play the best traps, and you get to play a really, really powerful Shaddoll fusion.
Yes, and you're flexible. I mean, you're impossible to make out. Even if somebody's sitting down, he has been either watching the stream or some of his friends told him, hey, I just saw the craziest deck on the stream. And he sits down in front of Paolo, and he's like, I know what you're playing, and I still don't know how to play against it, because anything can happen. Like, anything goes.
Yeah, you look at the little synergies in there. For example, the Sinister Shadow Games being able to flip up things like Raikou.
Yeah, which
send Shaddoll Dragon to the graveyard.
Yes.
Get two cards knocked out there.
So I have to say I like it. I'm not sure about the 54 cards, to be honest. That seems a little bit excessive, but the idea seems really unique.
The idea is unique. I'll give the guy full credit where credit's due. He's made it work, and he's
right. So
proving successful.
What's our final vote? We're going to give it 4 stars out of 5.
Michelin stars.
Michelin? All right. And well, our scorekeeper on the other hand gives him 4 wins out of 5 possible wins for the time being. So we might see him again tomorrow, or we're almost definitely going to see him again tomorrow. We might see him again at the top 32 that's going to be played tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah.
Speaking of which, today we're going to play 7 rounds because we saw some German efficiency in the judge team today. We have so short rounds that we can play 7 rounds today rather than the 6 that we were originally going to play. And tomorrow it's going to be just 2 rounds, and after that, the top 32. So that is one of the interesting news that we just decided midway through the tournament because it makes so much sense. The other thing that we didn't quite know earlier was that the metagame was much more diverse than we thought.
Yes, we thought the 3 main decks were going to be the vast majority, and it actually makes up just under half, isn't it?
Yeah, together combined, they don't even make up 50% of the field, almost 50%. But we see a lot of decks that we didn't expect to pop up in such numbers, in my opinion. I mean, like Lightsworn, we thought this was be like the one Lightsworn deck in the room, and it was far from that.
It's like 8% of the total.
Yeah, 8% of the field. That's just like 1% short of Burning Abyss, which was supposedly one of the big 3 decks in the tournament.
Yeah.
And then we got Spellbooks, Mermail, Bujin, Madolche, Evil Swarm, Gegia. Still the hat deck. Sounds like a case of somebody going on holiday and like, oh, I'm just bringing the deck I played last with 6 months ago or something.
Sure.
But yeah, maybe we're going to see them again in the feature match area. Something we don't have on that list is Monarchs.
Yeah, Monarchs. That's in the other category.
Yeah.
Almost as many people decided to play decks that we didn't just name than they did Shaddoll.
Very, very typical for a not so well-defined format. I give everybody credit who goes here with a rogue deck and just says, okay, I'm going to play Gravekeepers, just because nobody's going to expect it.
Yeah.
And I mean, Gravekeepers, I'm not sure if that's the best pick with so many Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors in the side deck, but there are a couple of decks that will do well in this particular metagame.
Just catching people out.
Yeah. So, interesting things happening today. What's been your highlight so far out of the 5 rounds?
What's been my highlight? I think kind of that hybrid was
Like
really
deck
cool.
building wise, definitely our highlight of the day. In terms of a situation that was like an oh my god moment, that was definitely in round 1 for me.
Oh,
When we saw the Dark Arm Dragon